Hi, everyone. Welcome to Story Time. Today's guest is somebody who I am so honored to interview. As most of y'all know, I am a huge racing fan. I love it. Ever since I went to my first race in Phoenix, I've been hooked. I just watched the Daytona 500, even through 6.5 hours of weather delay. I live for it. And today's guest is someone who I cannot wait to watch this season. Her name is Natalie Decker. You've probably heard of her in the sports and especially the racing world. I will discuss her big, exciting news that she just came out with a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk about that on the episode. And so stay tuned, and I hope y'all enjoy. We are back with Natalie Decker. And like I said in the intro, I am so excited for this interview. Natalie, I know you have had huge news come out, and I'll ask you about that in a second, but how have you been the past couple of weeks? I'm sure it's just been a whirlwind for you.
Well, first, thank you for having me. Yes, it has been. It's been crazy. Coming from off season into the racing season, not knowing what we were going to do, and then finally putting a deal together. So I've been very, very busy.
Awesome. And so the big news is that you were signed to the Xfinity Series deal. So you'll be in at least 5 races this season. So for you, I mean, that's a huge step up. Obviously, they're the Saturday races. People are super excited. So, I mean, you're only 23. So to be at this level, I mean, just what went through your mind when you first signed that deal, and how excited are you for the season?
It's definitely a dream come true. I've always wanted to race in NASCAR, and now we're slowly moving up. And I'm in the Xfinity Series this year. We're racing with RSS, and it's managed by Rayon Brothers Racing. And I'm just so thankful that we were able to race with this team and find partners that are backing us to do 5 races. And we're gonna try to add more. So we're doing 5, but we're hopefully adding more as the season goes on.
Awesome. So some of the tracks, I looked at your schedule. So some of them are Daytona, which is this weekend, super exciting. Also Talladega, Martinsville. So do you have, out of the 5, do you have a track that you're most excited to race at?
I'm excited to race at all of them, but definitely Road America. That's my home state. So I'm really excited to go back there. My whole family will be there. A lot of fans that, saw me grow up racing in Wisconsin will be able to come support me, and to be there and see them, that will be really wonderful. Um, but I'm excited for all of them. There's not like a certain one that I'm more excited for. We are going to Talladega, which is a super speedway, and I really love super speedway racing. I was really sad we weren't able to get the big Daytona race on our schedule, but we have Talladega, so it makes up for it.
And I have to ask, I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I watched the Daytona 500 yesterday, and just one thing I'm really curious about. So for me as a fan, it's exciting for the wrecks, even though the dangerous ones still make me feel like I'm gonna throw up every time I watch. But a lot of it was like the single file racing. So for you as a driver, like, is that still exciting? I know they're going super, super fast, but or would you rather have like the exciting racing where it's the potential for wrecks, then it's not just that single file the whole time? Like, what's your preference?
Well, at a track like Daytona, single file and just riding for a while, that's nice for a driver because it's relaxing. Well, it's not that relaxing, but way more relaxing than side by side racing. But like in the cup race the other day, it took them a while. Then they were all single file for a long time, and no one was making any moves. And then a lot of people, weren't able to gain a lot of positions. So then that's not very fun. So you want to. There's a happy medium, but I come from short track racing, so I love like hard side by side racing, and short tracks I love so much, but super speedways are still fun even when you're single file.
Perfect. All right, so I have to ask you, so the sponsorship deal was announced, got a ton of attention. It's with Red Street Records, and Jay DeMarcus is in Rascal Flatts. So one, talk about kind of how that sponsorship all started, but 2, do you have a favorite Rascal Flatts song?
Yes. Okay, well, I'll answer that first. Yes, I do. My favorite song is My Wish. that they
Ooh,
sang. And my mom always like would write that down and put it like in our suitcase if we were leaving somewhere to my brother and I, or when we were moving out, when he went to college. And then my boyfriend's mom does the same thing with that same song. So that song has a lot of meaning to me. And then the partnership, it came about, it was so crazy. So we have a mutual friend. So his name is Todd, and he's friends with Jay, who's part of the Rascal Flats, and he owns Red Street Records. And this mutual friend we have just started connecting us, and then also we were on a Zoom call talking about racing in 2021 in the Xfinity series. So it was really cool. It all happened really fast, and I'm really thankful that we have this awesome partner. They're so fun to work with, and we've had a great time so far. So we're probably all really excited and ready to get to Daytona.
there you go. And I cannot wait to watch you at Daytona. I'm so excited for the partnership. It's really cool. Over the past year, there's been so many collaborations with NASCAR between like football and NASCAR and pitbull and NASCAR. And it's just awesome that there's another connection now, just kind of between the two industries, and it brings a whole new fan base. So I think that will be super exciting as well. And then
Oh,
I want to know, so it's very rare. We don't see a ton of women in racing, especially at the high levels like Xfinity, the Cup Series. So do you feel any added pressure just kind of making your debut and all of that? Or, I mean, are you just ready to, kick some butt and beat all these guys?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go there and have some fun. And I've have a few laps at the Daytona road course. I've done the truck race there last year. Then a couple years before that, I did a road course race in a TA car with Ave Motorsports. So I have a few laps there. I'm ready to go there. I'm ready to have fun. I'm ready to learn and just do the best we can do.
Love it. And is there anyone that you look to as a mentor, whether it's Cup Series or Xfinity? Is there anyone that you've kind of gotten to, pick their brain a little bit or get some advice from? Or are you just kind of, learning as you go?
Definitely learning as we're going along. But there's so many drivers and teammates and team owners that I've worked with in the past and that I'm working with now that help me out, give me advice, tell me, what they went through, and crew chiefs that I've worked with in the past or that I'm working with now. They all want to help. They all want what's best for me, which is really amazing. And they do their best to give me the best advice they have.
That's great. And then, so I want to hear kind of from the beginning. So with story time, I always tell people they love hearing about like what got the guest excited for whatever their career is, whether it's sports, music, whatever. So what got you into racing and what made you decide, okay, I want to make this my career?
I like this. Okay, so my dad owned a snowmobile racetrack. He recently sold it a couple years ago, but I grew up at this racetrack, and my dad and all his brothers, they raced snowmobiles, they raced dirt bikes, they raced dirt cars. My dad even tried to race asphalt for a couple years, but he was better at dirt, so he stayed with dirt racing and the snowmobiles. So I like really fell in love with the motorsports industry, but it was more the snowmobile side of things because that's all I knew, and my dad worked in that industry. But I always told my parents when I was little, I was always like, I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be a football player or an astronaut. Like I always had these weird dreams and like big dreams. And then finally one day I was like, Dad, I want to race in NASCAR. We were watching the race on TV, and he was like just the week before I said I wanted to be an astronaut. So he was like, okay, cool, like awesome. And then as I got older, he took me to like a go-kart race, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is what I can do. We can start in go-karts, Dad. Can you please get me a go-kart like for my birthday or something? I really want to race go-karts. And it took him a few years for him to take me seriously. So I think it was like 3 or 4 years. So then finally for my 9th birthday, he got me a go-kart, and then it was just game over after that.
That's so funny. In snowmobile racing, I have never heard of that. So is it like is it like downhill? Is it in a loop? Like, how does
So
that even work?
there's actually lots of different kinds of snowmobile racing, but the one that my dad did, it's on an oval, like a racetrack that I would race at, and it's banked and it's ice. And they race snowmobiles around it. Yeah. And then there's other ones where it's like snow cross and there's jumps, kind of like motocross, but with snow. And then
Hmm.
there's other races that are like long distance in the woods, like going cross country type things like that. But I was
So
like, I liked watching. I wasn't gonna do that. I just liked watching.
yeah, I was gonna say racing on ice. Were there like crazy wrecks with that, or like how did that even work?
Yes, there are, and they don't have anything to protect them. They're just on a snowmobile, so when they fall off and start falling towards the wall, like it's their bodies, not, a roll cage. My
Mhm.
dad, he told me, I haven't seen any videos and I don't think I ever want to, but he said that there was one wreck that he was in. My mom was pregnant with me, and he said that he was going to be done racing because he didn't want to get hurt or have something horrible happen to him after this wreck when my mom was pregnant with me. And then
Yeah.
I was born, and it was like 8 years later, and he started racing again.
Oh no. Has he had any crazy injuries doing that?
I don't know if he's really had any crazy injuries racing snowmobiles, but when he was racing dirt bikes, he hurt himself pretty bad a couple times. I've heard some crazy stories.
Oh gosh, I don't know how y'all do it. Like just the risk. I barely can go like 75 on the freeway in my Nissan Sentra without like freaking out that I'm somehow gonna get hurt. So
It's
I
scarier on the highway. It's scarier on the highway than it is on the racetrack.
That's good to know. And I do want to talk about one thing that they talked about a lot yesterday on the broadcast is just like the risk that y'all take. And they showed Ryan Newman in an interview with him, and he's like, yeah, that wreck happened in Daytona in 2020, but I'm still going to take the risks, still going to do what I love. So for you as a driver, like, is that kind of a required mentality where I don't think people realize how dangerous of a sport it is, and you have to be so skilled to even do it. But does that go through your mind at all, or is it just something you've done for so long that doesn't really matter?
The sport is dangerous, and NASCAR and every other sanctioned racing, they all take really good precautions and like really try to focus on the safety. But it is dangerous. It is racing, anything, a motorcycle, a car, a snowmobile. There's all a risk to it.
Mhm.
But that has, ever since I started, it has never crossed my mind. It has never held me back. And I remember there was this one time, it was my first time ever in it's called a super late model. And it was like the fastest short track car you can race where I came from. And I was practicing it for my first time, got in it. We made 10 laps, and then they're like, okay, we're going to put new tires on. And they did something to like slow it down with like putting a chip in it. So like I would hit the rev limiter really fast, and they're like, we'll take that out. We're putting new tires on. You go make a 20-lap run. And because it was my first time, so I didn't, I was just practicing. And like my second lap out there, the throttle stuck wide open going into turn one. And I mean, the car was just destroyed. It was kind of terrifying because like we just got the car. I was so upset. Like, my dad just got this car, the throttle stuck wide open, and it was destroyed. And that night I had to race the class. I was a class below that, so like I still had that car. We were still racing in that class, and that whole race I kept seeing my same marks, the marks from my throttle sticking and me locking up the brakes, going into the corner and wrecking. And I remember telling my dad that like I thought I was gonna be scared. Like I think I was like 13 years old. I was like, Dad, I really thought I was gonna be scared, and that was gonna hold me back, but it never did. And I'm really glad I went through that when I first started racing, because when that happened and it was so scary and I got back in the car and I had no other choice but to get back out there and do it, then it was great. Like one time we were dirt biking somewhere and I wrecked, I fell. I was trying to clear a jump for my first time. My boyfriend loves dirt biking, and I was like, I have to do it again. If I don't go over the jump again, I'm going to be scared and not want to come back.
Yeah, yeah. Dang, that's awesome. And I think it requires like a certain level of just not crazy, but I mean, for y'all to do what you do, it's just like strength that I think a lot of people don't have. So I have all the respect for you and all the drivers. It's incredible. And I want to talk about also, so like I said, you're young, you're still 23, but you have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers on social media. With that platform, do you ever feel like, I mean, just how do you handle it being so young? Like, does it ever get to where it's too much, especially with like the news coming out? Or has it just been something that's super easy and fun for you?
It's definitely fun. I really enjoy it. I love being able to share my whole life as much as I can share because you can only share so much
Yeah.
and you can only understand and see so much through social media. But I love sharing it, especially the behind the scenes of what it takes to be a race car driver and like the business side of things and just my personal life. And I really love sharing that with everyone so they really feel like they're a part of my journey and they're just a part of the success, they're a part of the journey and me moving up into the Xfinity series, and I just want them to feel like they're a part of it. So I really enjoy it. It's never been, I mean, there's been some times where it was stressful when I first started. Like once I got a bigger following and we were racing in NASCAR, I was a little confused and it was a little hard at first, but now I just really fully enjoy the whole thing.
Oh, and with that platform, I think it's so amazing that you are so open with your fans and give them the opportunity to get to know you. But I'm sure many of those followers are girls that want to be you when they get older. So, what advice, because they don't have a ton of role models to look up to, and that's why I think it's so important what you're doing. What advice would you give them to where they can be you someday?
Yes, I would. What I would love to tell myself too if I was younger, like, so this is advice that I would love to give all the young girls out there is first of all, never give up, but have a good support system around you. You can't do it alone, and there's going to be really tough times where you fall down and you don't want to get back up. But if you have a really good support system around you to help guide you in the right direction and help you when you're lost or confused, it will go a long way and it will help you keep getting farther and farther in your career. So that's like my biggest thing. Have that support system because they will help you through it all.
That's great advice. And I think that's great just for girls that want to do any profession, just in life to have that support system. So that's great. And speaking of the support system, I know you've been around racing for a long time. You've done the truck series and all of that. But is there somebody this season that maybe they're an idol of yours, role model, whoever? But is there somebody that you are so excited to meet this season?
Well, actually, so every year, not every year, but every few years I come up I have a new favorite driver. So like I was a fan of Danica and Mark Martin and Martin Truex the last couple years. This year, I'm a fan of Kurt Busch and I'm rooting for Kurt Busch. And I've never met him in person. So I hope I do meet him. I need to go buy a shirt of his too so I can wear it when he's racing.
Yes. So why Kurt Busch? Like what makes him your favorite?
Well, last year he started becoming a little bit of my favorite. I really liked his attitude on social media and like his presence and the way he interacted with his fans. And I liked the way he interviewed and like he was doing an amazing job last year on track. So that also made it really easy to be a fan of him. And then his wife, I follow his wife, and she's a big reason why I think I'm a fan of his.
So you want to meet Kurt, but you also want to meet his wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know it's race week and you're so busy, but finally, just tell everyone where they can follow you on social media so they can keep up with you this season.
Yeah, so I have a website called nataliedeckerink.com and I have all my merchandise on there and all the links to I have a Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel, and I just started streaming on Twitch. So you can just find all of my social links on my website, nataliedeckerink.com.
Perfect. Well, Natalie, thank you so much. I'm going to have to rock Natalie Decker gear this season. I can't wait to watch you this weekend and the rest of this season. And good luck.
Thank you so much.